Board of the meeting of the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District Board of Managers, December 3rd, 2019. All managers are present except managers Rognus and Hejmati. Manager Hejmati will be here shortly. No members of the public. We will move to note that there, under information items, we have a stormwater pond annual survey and maintenance update from Ms. Jonley, and 2019 MAUD annual meeting materials have been posted in the information items by Mr. Whisker. The consent agenda contains the approval of the November 21 minutes and Resolution 19-100, approval of banking structure. I would like to pull the minutes. There's a small change I'd like to make. But with that, is there a motion to adopt Resolution 19-100 in the consent agenda?
So moved.
Manager Olson, is there a second?
Second.
Manager Miller, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Make a note or I'll forget to go back to the minutes here. Okay. The upcoming, President's report. I have attended no meetings in the last 2 weeks.
It's got to be a record.
I know it, but I'm looking forward to MAUD this coming days here. Manager Loftus, if you could give us a report from operations and programs.
Yes. Quickly, we spent our time on 2 discussion items, and they were actually carryovers from last committee meeting. We received a update on a property in Victoria, kind of letting us know where the coordination process is with the landowner, and then using that example to set up a small area planning framework, and that is going to come back again as an established process and scoping in December and January. And then we spent a good amount of time talking or having a discussion about the development of the responsive model and how that'll track through an engagement process throughout 2020 and for hopeful adoption and implementation by the end of 2020. It's a robust program with a lot of opportunities for stakeholders to engage, so I think the public can look forward to hearing about that the first half of the year.
Great, thank you. The upcoming meeting event schedule is listed in the agenda. A reminder again that we're on atypical scheduling for the month of December, so we have a meeting and a planning and policy committee meeting on the 19th. And then Manager Rognus is assigned to the next CAC meeting. And this shows us going into January, I'm sorry, not into January, but the Metro MAUD meeting is in January. Manager Hejmati is in the rotation. I will plan to attend too, and we can talk about that in advance, Manager Hejmati. Are there any other meetings or events managers want to report on? Then we'll move to the public comment process for the 2020 budget. Mr. Whisker.
Thank you, President White and managers. As you know, tonight's the final public comment period on the district's budget, and that's required as outlined in the memo as part of the Truth in Taxation Law. Tonight's comment period follows a year of the board's budget development, culminating in the public hearing that we held here on August 22nd, where we reviewed the work plan for 2020, the estimated budgeted costs, and the revenue sources, the funding sources, including your levy. We didn't receive any comment at that time or since. And just by way of sort of quick recap, the work plan for 2020 has Minnehaha Creek Watershed District really sustaining its focus on delivering high-impact capital improvements with our partners in our 2 primary focal areas, Minnehaha Creek and the 6 Mile Creek Halstead Bay subwatersheds, as well as a series of programmatic improvements aimed at improving how we deliver service to our communities and partners. And in 2020, we'll be looking at some of the things that Manager Loftus just mentioned, our discussion of earlier in committee, our responsive program, aligning permitting, and both of those working together as a model to keep cultivating partnerships with the land use community. Also a series of technology investments that are going to help us continue improving how we work with others. Investment in GIS is one that you're all familiar with that's just helping us improve our analysis and decision making, and then remote sensing that's going to be put out into the watershed by our research and monitoring group to help improve our real-time understanding of our water budget and inform management of Grays Bay Dam and capital project planning. And then there were, of course, planned expenditures for facility improvements here for the Watershed District's office building and campus. Combined, the work plan requires a budget of $15,350,177. That's supported by Watershed District levy of $9,675,993. And that represents our second year running of a flat levy. And that's been made possible by kind of three basic things: careful planning by the board in developing multi-year levy for large-scale capital improvements. So we're carrying $2.3 million in assigned for funds for some of our projects that are planned over a number of different years. We also have kind of a second category of projects or programs that came in delivered under budget. That falls just short of $1 million, $917,000 that's carried forward. And then the other bracket of funds are outside funds, whether those are grants or partnership dollars, where we have a category about $2.2 million, in part from Lessard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council for cart management on 6 Mile, Wasserman Park, and then Clean Water Legacy funding for the partnership with Long Lake, Medina, Orono, and Long Lake Waters. So I think those are the highlights. That's the bottom line. With that, wanted to thank the board and staff for another productive and engaging year of budget development, our partners for supporting our mission in policy and financially, and then open it up to see if there's any public comment.
Are there any members of the public here? No comments. Thank you, Mr. Whisker.
Thank you.
Action item 11.1 is Resolution 19101, recognition of service of outgoing Citizens Advisory Committee members. Mr. Whisker.
Yes, President White, managers, included in your packet, there's 3 individual resolutions acknowledging service for outgoing Citizens Advisory Committee members. We've got Jerry Chiardarli leaving us. He served from 2009 to 2019. Sliv Carlson from 2011 to 2019, and Liz Crow from 2017 to 2019. And as the board knows, we've put a lot of effort into working closely with the CAC, and I think in the last 2 years with these 3 members' help, they've become more and more aligned and adding value to the board, forging new direction forward, and we want to take time to thank them for their service. So there's 3 individual resolutions in your packet, and it's your pleasure. You can act on those individually or as a joint motion. And those resolutions will be delivered to those CAC members, complemented with a letter from President White, and then just a token of appreciation that President White and myself have picked up.
Is Jerry's name spelled right?
I believe it is.
I think so.
Okay.
Okay, these are noted as 101A, 101B, and 101C. Is there a motion to adopt those 3 resolutions?
Move approval.
Manager
Second.
Miller, second by Manager Olson.
It is.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Those in favor say, Manager Miller.
I think the quality of the effort that the CAC puts forth on our behalf is just outstanding, and I think it's for 2 purposes, or for 2 reasons. One is they're committed to making impact, but the staff support that they're given to guide them has been very substantially increased in the last couple of years, and I just think that we're all benefiting from their good work, and I'm sorry to see these people leaving, but I'm sure they'll contribute to the environment in other ways. So,
Thank you. I think too that the way that the agendas are being structured really allows for serious input and really helpful input from them for the work that we're doing. Good. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 19102, approval of plans and specifications and authorization to solicit quotes for 6 Mile Creek Halsted Bay cart barrier. Ms. Brown. I saved you saying all those words.
Okay, thank you, President White and managers. We're taking a break from my usual programming to go back to our cart management program, but we'll be back on Wasserman next week. So we are looking at the Auburn Lunston barrier design and seeking authorization to request quotes for that barrier's installation. As the board is aware, this work is part of our 6 Mile Creek Halsted Bay Habitat Restoration Program, which we're implementing in partnership with LaSarre Sands Outdoor Heritage Council. And with that partnership and with the work that we're doing out here, we're seeking to manage common carp across the whole 6 Mile system using 3 principal strategies. Sort of strategic barrier construction to create management units and help facilitate stream trapping. We're doing shallow lake aeration to help prevent recruitment in lakes that are identified carp nurseries. And then we're also doing adult biomass removal. To date, we have installed utilities at 3 different lakes in the system, and we'll be aerating this winter for the first time. We've constructed 3 of our 4 planned barriers, with construction having occurred at Crown College, Highland Road in Minnetrista, and Wasserman Lake. And then we've also made some good progress on the adult biomass removal, primarily through box netting and stream trapping, and there have been some commercial seines through the process to help. And just to illustrate the progress that we've made to date, this map here summarizes the carp densities that we saw through the study that the University of Minnesota conducted. And it's a basic heat map. So in all of these systems, we had carp concentrations higher than that target 100 kilogram per hectare threshold. And as of our most recent fish survey out here,
Wow.
we've made significant progress. So that blue system, the net density is less than 100 kilograms per hectare. That green is either at 100 kilograms or sort of between 100 and 200, so minimal additional removals required. And then where we're still seeing those really high concentrations are the Parley Mud system, and then the Halsted Bay, of course. So the purpose of this barrier, again, it's our 4th and final barrier, and it really will serve a multifunctional purpose. It'll help manage recruitment by preventing carp from carp in all of those kind of upstream lakes, which includes both the Auburns, but also going as far as Wasserman, Marsh, Parley. Prevents them from accessing the known recruitment sites, which are in North and South Lunston. This is North Lunston here and South Lunston here. It also isolates those nursery lakes. These are both going to be aerated, but if they were to have successful reproduction, the carp wouldn't be able to move out and repopulate those lakes. And finally, we plan to use this barrier to facilitate stream trapping. So as carp try to access those nurseries, we hope to be able to use electrofishing to actually pull them out. I will note that we had originally proposed this barrier to be between North and South Lunston, but as we kind of re-examined the overall strategy in this system, it really made sense to just, to achieve this kind of isolated nursery effect, to place it here at the outlet of Auburn. The design should look quite familiar at this point. We are using our standard barrier design. So this illustration is the central panel where you'll have concrete footings and steel beams that are set in those concrete footings. And then the gate will be able to be lifted and lowered and will kind of fit right into those steel beams. There will just be one section of this gate, and then from the gate to the shoreline will be tied in with fencing. The one change that you see here is that rather than going with the wire mesh fencing, we're going to be using this spindle approach that should help prevent some of the clogging issues that we've seen, particularly at the Highland Road barrier. That mesh has been really difficult to clean, and so this is kind of a reaction and adjustment to that issue. And we're also looking at actually retrofitting the Highland Road barrier to also have this type of fencing design.
So, quick question. The water level is at the top of the pylons?
Manager Olson, the water level will fluctuate somewhat, but there's a substantial amount of gate that will still be higher than
Okay.
the water level. So we're pretty conservative with how much
So
gate
the,
we're putting
so
in.
the footings are at the bottom of the creek?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
correct.
All right, thanks.
I can't read this. The bottom part of the fence, that's kind of this naked spikes coming down, is that into the stream bottom?
Manager Miller, yes.
Okay.
And we had talked to Blackstone, who installed the barriers last time, and they thought even in installation winter conditions, that would be achievable, that we would be able to bury them. If for some reason the stream bed conditions prevent us from really getting them into the ground, we would just get as close as we can and then reinforce with riprap to make sure that there are no holes.
Yeah, one more question. The last barriers were put in when?
Manager Olson, they were installed in sort of late winter of 2019.
This year.
Yes.
Have we thought about the fact that up till now, in the wintertime, these creek passages are the snowmobile highway in the winter?
Manager Olson, the only known sort of snowmobile path that we were potentially interfering with was at Highland Road, but we were able to determine that the snowmobiles actually are going, they're not using the creek under Highland Road, they're going out and around, partially because, as we found out the hard way, it doesn't freeze all the way through, which had kind of changed our construction plans. But yeah, so there's no interference with
Okay.
the snowmobile. And I believe Three Rivers does not allow any snowmobiles in the park.
And this would be in the park?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Manager Riley.
This redesign, has it been tested elsewhere, or, how do they arrive at a design where they think that it can be stopped with it's easier to clean, or?
Sure, that's a great question, Manager Kishmati. There isn't really a standard design available right now for cart barriers. I mean, I think this is a new practice that a lot of watershed districts are kind of
Trying
experimenting
it out.
with now. So I think we worked with Wang to do the design. I think they took some direction from other types of fish barriers that they had done, but also looking at the specific needs for us, and just some of our understanding of carp, in terms of how far apart the spindles could be based on the size of carp we know are in the system and things like that. So it's a little bit incremental, but we've seen them work really well. I think you've all seen the video of carp trying to jump over, so we certainly know they can't get through.
Yeah.
President
Mr.
Whitman,
Meehan.
The other reason we also looked at this design is it is incredibly much easier to maintain these spindles versus the chain link fence. What we found with the Highland barrier is that they would start to clog on where the chain links would come together, and where we actually, in the middle sections where we had these more vertical bars, you could actually run a rake or your fingers through it, much easier to clean it up. And so this will help alleviate those issues as far as where we have clogging on the
It's
side.
more of a raking action than a picking action.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it's just easier to clean, okay.
And we haven't
Wow.
seen much of an issue at Wasserman or Crown because there's just less flow and less material. If eventually the chain link has to be replaced, we would probably go this approach. But it's really only creating a significant maintenance issue at Highland.
Okay. Terrific.
Okay. So again, I'm seeking approval of the plans and specifications and authorization to solicit quotes this evening. My planned timeline is to come back with a contract award at our first meeting in January, and at that time we would also have an agreement with Three Rivers Park District regarding having the facility on their site, as well as sort of a maintenance agreement around how we'll share maintenance responsibilities. And because this will be happening in a stream channel, we'll be looking to complete the construction by March 15th of this year, or of next year, I suppose.
And that'll allow enough time for, okay.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Is there a motion, first of all, to adopt Resolution 19102?
Move approval.
Manager Olson, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Manager Maxwell. Manager Olson?
Well, based on the public's reaction to the quality and the caliber of the barriers we've done so far, it's been a very positive thing. I've heard dozens and dozens of people comment about them. Yeah, because they're all visible and they're all where people see the effect going into, to help cleaning up their world. So thank you for the work you've done.
Is there anything else for Ms. Brown? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Going back to the minutes, at line 65, it says that Manager Olson and I both attended that meeting. I just wanted to strike Manager Olson, who couldn't make it to the meeting, unfortunately. I had mentioned that during the meeting, but wasn't actually there. And then, oops, I better look at it. I've got another note here.
Which meeting was that?
At line 65,
65. Okay.
it says President White reported that she attended a meeting with Manager Olson and Mr. Whisker. So
Oh, that's
I
right.
just attended with Mr. Whisker.
Correct.
Strike Manager Olson and.
Strike me twice in one meeting.
Line.
3 strikes and you're out.
And I don't think I need to change the minutes here, but at line 99, and we start talking about debt service payment approval, I just wanted to remind people that we're going to put a line on their future agendas on the consent item that just pulls out wire transfers as a separate item. I don't think I need to change anything there. Okay, so I'd like to move that those minutes be approved with that deletion of 3 words at line 65.
So moved.
Second.
Anything else? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. All right, we will move to Mr. Heyman at item 12.1.
Good evening, Madam Chair, managers. Excuse me. I'm before you this evening with discussion item 12.1 for the board RBA and memorandum format. Staff is seeking input from the board this evening on, in preparation for the board communications shifting in early 2022, a newer format that's a little bit easier to follow, track, and will hopefully create more consistent communication in all formats. So whether it be committee briefings, informational items, discussion items, requests for board action, the goal here is to create that consistency while also addressing a variety of other opportunities in doing so. So the benefits of a new format will, it'll enhance readability. It also assists with searchability and tracking in electronic formats. There's just a simplification in terms of the writing effort associated with it if they're all consistent. And all of this is, of course, predicated on a reduction in staff time, resources, and hopefully review time, because everything will be more consistent than what is presently used today. Excuse me. As you'll note in your packet, the templates demonstrate how the communications will be consistent across varied uses. So whether you're looking at a committee correspondence or an informational item or request for board action, they're going to maintain that consistent look, the consistent flow, starting with the logo in the top left corner, which isn't presently part of request for board action, and some of our other items, and then moving its way in the header. And that's really the biggest shift, is all sort of pertinent information up front for any reader to find will all be in that header, and they'll all look the same. It'll identify what the meeting is, what the date of said meeting is, the agenda item, so whether it's an information or update in a committee meeting or an actual action item, and then it'll give you that type of correspondence, be it action, discussion, etc. Excuse me. So in the packet, I used the templates to actually put some samples into practice, so you weren't just looking at what would be used from a template standpoint for staff. This was the memo that was provided to the board in that sort of template format. So you'll again note that this template, a discussion item at the board meeting, will look identical to a discussion item in committee. It will only vary in in the heading identification. That then changes when you get to a request for board action, which this is an example of a previously adopted board action for the release of the CIP. And again, the only thing that will change is the type of correspondence, so it's a request for board action, and then moves its way through the typical resolution format. You'll note when compared to what was actually approved, it's a reduction of about a page, and this is on one of the most basic templates. And it also removes that workshop action box, which is a legacy from 5+ years ago. We no longer have workshops. And that was actually the genesis for this effort, was just that continued box needing to be checked for no real apparent reason. So with that, we decided to try to modify everything, make it easier to track, to read, to write, and therefore hopefully just make it easier for outside users as well as the board to follow along. So with that, our goal is to implement a new template. This would be the starting point in January of 2020. And we're hoping to gather any feedback from the board if there are particular elements you would like to see, something that we maybe haven't thought of that would make tracking or following along a little easier. We'd be happy to take take your input on that.
Manager Olson?
Under your budget considerations, would you break that down into budget and amount requested?
Manager Olson, managers, that's correct. It'll follow the same format. So the template actually has a hidden table there where it will track what the present budget is, what the request for funding is at that particular time, what fund it will come out of. So all of the same information that you see today, just in a more simplified format.
Any other comments about this? Well, I shouldn't say I'm thrilled, but I love it. I just love it. I have one question. There's no logo on the resolution page.
Chair White, managers, that there isn't. Now, we could certainly add that. The resolution has always, I've just maintained the same format that we've had, and we can consult with legal counsel. Some of the resolution language actually is going to be modified as well, so there's a more structured and consistent format in some of that language as well. If we would like to add a logo to that, I don't see that would be an issue, and that would be something we can easily do.
Did you have a question?
I really like this change. Removing the confusion and the consumption of time that we used to be going through with workshops and no continuum of the issues and not knowing where things got lost and dropped and ignored. And this is really reassuring that we're, I guess, the gross, that we're in control. We know what's going on, and we're truly setting the policy, and there's continuity and follow through. I really appreciate the effort this shows.
Okay.
It's all good, I think. Thank you
Great.
very much, Mr. Heyman.
You will see the new format in January.
Excellent. Next item, potential property donation at 2301 Brunswick Avenue South, St. Louis Park. Mr. Heyman.
Chair White, managers, staff wanted to bring back before you the 2301 Brunswick Avenue potential property donation. We are anticipating, or would advise the board to move into closed session, and I can turn it over to council to move the board into that, because there will be a discussion on valuation in the most recent offer from the owner that we did want to bring forth to the board this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into closed session for discussion of a potential valuation of 2301 Brunswick Avenue South, St. Louis Park?
So moved.
Manager Loftus, is there a second?
Second.
Manager Miller, those in favor say aye.
All right.
We are in closed session. Go ahead.